Hey guys, hope everybody is doing well. So yesterday, Demise McMullen entered an Alford plea in YSL, the YSL indictment, which means YSL 2, the second trial, is now just going to have one defendant, Christian Eppinger, who isn't charged with murder, just attempted murder. So out of 28 people named in the YSL indictment, 2 made it all the way to jury deliberations and got acquitted, except for that one firearm charge that Shannon Stillwell was convicted of. And the one remaining person isn't facing a murder charge. So possibly, if Christian Eppinger continues forward, maybe they didn't offer him a plea, I don't know. Jury selection is supposed to start on the 9th, so in a few days. That would be 3 people. If Christian Eppinger goes to trial, 3 people total. That might make it to deliberations when all of this is said and done. So that's something, if you ask me. So Demise McMullen, aka Nard, was only facing 2 charges. Of course, you guys all know, count number 1, RICO. Conspiracy to violate RICO. And then count 2, attempted murder for Donovan Thomas, aka Nut. He took an Alford plea on both counts, with the Alford plea for the murder, and I can make this bigger. Reduced down, what did we hear last week when Demikian Garlington took his Alford plea? Judge Whitaker was shocked, because Simone Hilton was like, Your Honor, we want to reduce this murder charge that Demikian Garlington's facing. We want to reduce that down to ag assault. So, same thing happens here. And that wraps up possible prosecutions for the murder of Donovan Thomas. No conviction of murder for anybody that was in this indictment or previously charged with the murder of Donovan Thomas after all this time. So there you go. Lyrics did not get the job done. Now, his sentence, it's 40 years total, 20 years to serve for the count 1, 20 for the murder, but the 20 for the murder is suspended consecutive to count 1. So chances are he's looking at like 20 years probation. His first set of 20 years is concurrent with a sentence he's serving from another case. So I don't know the math on that, but 20, but it's not stacked on to whatever other time he had. And then there's not much else really in here. They're logging that he's been in custody relating to these charges since December 13th. So they're going to do that math for him here. He's not a first-time offender. And then they noted that the court wants him to be housed in Autry State Prison for rehabilitative and vocational programs offered there. So a specific note, really, for the Department of Corrections, we want you to house this particular individual here. And then it was Adam Abate that was the prosecutor leading this hearing that they had. It may have been Friday, because I saw it on the docket. It was the 2nd. Well, that would be Sunday. Okay, never mind. They filed an order of production for him. Maybe. Let's go to Demise McMullen. And if you remember, guys, Demise McMullen, that is the defendant that was represented by attorney Dark, who wanted to withdraw, but then was allowed to stay. And Dark was also the one that, in one of his motions, used the Nicki Minaj "Did It On Him" lyrics to make the point that lyrics aren't literal. Lyrics should not be assumed to be literal. So that's a good little throwback there. But other than that, Demise McMullen didn't come up that much during the trial. Even when they were talking about the Donovan Thomas order of events, he came up a few times when they mentioned phone records. Brian Steele had established at some point that there was not a single record of Jeffrey Williams calling Demise McMullen. Demise McMullen had called Jeffrey Williams' phone. Really wasn't mentioned all that much. And there was another Nard, right? Demise McMullen's name was AKA Nard. There was also Tinquarius Mender who had the AKA Nard. So it's like, sometimes if they were talking about a Nard, it might not even have been the same Nard. So just crazy. And you think about it, 28 people indicted. It's a RICO case, so it's complicated. Okay, maybe COVID backlogs are interfering with this indictment because you're still trying to get caught up in 2022. But we get a flood of Alford pleas, and I think it's really weird that without new evidence, you can suddenly offer someone the opportunity to maintain their innocence after they sat idle and in custody for like 3 years relating to this. It's just a crazy concept to me. But yeah, so quick and short, final plea disposition there. I didn't see a hearing link. Perhaps it was streamed yesterday, and I just don't see it. Maybe it was titled weird. And then let's see. I think the next thing is just jury selection starts for Epinger. It's gonna be just the state versus Epinger. That's what we're getting down to. Just a hot mess. Good morning to everybody. We're going to look at a news article with some more context here, get the story. It's going to be a short one. Flesh of the Gods, good to see you. Good to see you. Flesh of the Gods did all this work getting all the lore on YSL and any potential beefs or rumored hybrid gang split-offs. Like, he had all the lore. And it was such important context. And then Fonny's just like, never mind, we're just going to throw this case to the wind. Like, all that work, Flesh of the Gods, it was worth it for us. Thank you for doing it. Amanda Robinson, good to see you. Trikisha, good to see you. My Karen Reed watcher friend. Marla, good to see you. Shannon, good to see you. Factual Lie, also my Karen Reed watching friend. See you around in the chats. Shannon is celebrating her kattnotwilliams RICO chat gang anniversary. She's been part of it for 8 months. Be careful. Be careful. Factual Lie says, hit that like button. Thanks for the reminder. And also 12 months. Holy moly, Factual Lie. And yes, we get all the slats, all the slimes going. Good to see Tat Clouds. So Mo, I think this was about Attorney Dark, right? Is that the one that had the vacation planned? I don't think so. The reason he gave the court was that he was, I think, possibly going through a divorce and dealing with, just mental health was not optimal. And he said that he didn't have the time and combination of like the mental capacity to prepare for defending someone against a RICO and a murder charge. But then they gave him more time and said that they would work with him on getting some court resources. So, yeah, YSL Tara says, I feel so bad for Peanut's family because no one paid for the murder. Now, if you think about this, remember, Shamel Drinks was also AKA Peanut. And that's it. Once Demikian Garlington took that plea where it was dropped down to, and it was Alford plea, dropped down to ag assault, there's no murder conviction for Shamel Drinks either. So neither of them. And I'm not saying get the conviction for the sake of it. That's not what I'm saying. But it's like, those families sat here with this long drawn out case. Did they get any more closure? Do they have more closure today than they did 3 years ago? So I can't speak for them, but I can only imagine as, an outsider, I'm not in their shoes. Probably don't think I would feel like I had more closure. Good to see FFS in the chat with the sweetie. Aretha, good to see you. I think I've sighed already, FFS. I think I've already sighed. Oh, Angela, my other Karen Reed friend. All my Karen Reed friends are here. So good to see you, Angela. Hey, Amisha. And then let's see, yeah. Tracy, I do hate it for the family. Like, 3 years is a long time to sit through a trial. And speaking of Karen Reed, you see John O'Keefe's family, his brother Paul, his mom Peggy, sitting in the gallery every day of that trial. That's a 6-week trial. You see people in the chat ask, what do they do that they're able to attend this trial a second time around? They're there for the pretrial hearings. That consumes your life, and then just to get no closure. And maybe the Karen retrial is going to end in the same way. Like, if she's acquitted, or honestly, if she's convicted, I guarantee that's going to be a long, heavy fight for an appeal on several different issues. It's going to be one of those things that, where's the closure? And perhaps in that case, there might be a difference there where the O'Keefe family feels like Karen Read is guilty. I did hear that Shamel Drink's family had some doubts about the way the prosecution was pursuing charges for the Shamel Drink's murder. So, there's a difference there. But just crazy. So we get this coverage, AJC, love them over there. That's Joseph Papp and Shadi Abusad. I think Shadi did this coverage. But we get some good quotes from different attorneys on the success or lack thereof in this case. So let's get some context about how this went down yesterday. For the second time in many weeks, Fulton District Attorney Fani Willis's office agreed to drop a murder charge against an alleged YSL member in exchange for their guilty plea. After 3 years, I love the writing. After 3 years, 28 defendants, and countless days in court, the long-running Young Slime Life gang and racketeering case will wrap up without a single murder conviction. For the second time in as many weeks, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis's office agreed to drop a murder charge against an alleged YSL member in exchange for their guilty plea in the high-profile case. Several Atlanta attorneys said Tuesday that was par for the course, and it was clear Willis's office tried to dispose of the remaining defendants as quickly as possible after last year's trial fell apart. I think that's a great characterization. Here's Keith Adams. The Honorable Keith Adams says, "I'm certainly not surprised," said Keith Adams, who represented Atlanta rapper Young Thug, the Grammy-winning superstar at the center of the state's case. Quote, this is Adams continuing. "It was obvious they did not have the evidence to prove that these individuals committed a murder," Adams said. "Perhaps if they had charged aggravated assault from the beginning, we wouldn't have spent 2.5+ years wasting taxpayer money and bastardizing the justice system." A spokesperson for Willis declined to comment, so Fani Willis doesn't want to make a statement about this. She seems to be pretty selective, if you ask me, about when she wants to speak. Other times it seems like she's running out there to make a statement. Think of when Jeffrey Williams took his plea. She was really excited to make the representation. We got them for these gang charges. But here we are. No comment. And not just no comment, not a response. Declined. It was acknowledged, and we said nope. Demise McMullen, the final defendant facing a murder charge, and this is attempted murder. Oh, wait. Okay, never mind. I don't know why I was thinking Epinger when reading this. Let me rewire. Demise McMullen, not Epinger, the final defendant facing a murder charge, pleaded guilty Monday to a reduced count of aggravated assault, court records show. He was one of 5 people charged in the 2015 drive-by shooting of Donovan Thomas outside an Atlanta barbershop. The death of Thomas, who authorities said was a ranking member of a rival gang, allegedly sparked a years-long feud that led to widespread violence across Atlanta, prosecutors argued during the longest criminal trial in state history. Authorities allege one of the cars used in that drive-by was rented by Young Thug, whose real name is Jeffrey Williams. And don't forget the context about who had been driving that car around, right? So AJC is usually great with the context, and I think all of us that watch the trial remember this. But in painting the story, what happened over the last 3 years, this ridiculous weaving of this trial where we barely get any convictions, and we don't have any murder convictions. They're pointing out a key detail. The connection is this car rental. And they weren't even arguing that Jeffrey Williams was in that rented car. But he coordinated through this rental and may have been in the area in another vehicle. That was something the state tried to submit to the jury. It was argued against pretty strongly by the defense attorneys, Who knows? But their strongest argument was Jeffrey Williams rented the car and he's responsible. But who do we know was driving the rental? Testimony pointed to, at least earlier that day, it was Quindarius Zachary, Lil D, and Woody, Kenneth Copeland, that were driving around that rental car. And they got it all banged up. And according to Kenneth Copeland, he gave that car over to his friend Threat to deal with. So we're missing that detail here, that context, which just, to me, adds a whole layer of ridiculousness to the case, because at least in this indictment, Kenneth Copeland was not charged with the murder of Donovan Thomas. Threat was never charged. And in this indictment, Quindarius Zachary was not charged with the murder of Donovan Thomas. But yet the state wanted to hinge on this rental being some dot to connect, but ignored the dots that were in the vehicle. Willis shocked the hip-hop world in the spring of 2022 by indicting Williams, who prosecutors said was the co-founder and leader of YSL. The Atlanta native pled guilty on Halloween night to gang, gun, and drug charges, and was sentenced to time served and 15 years probation. McMullen entered an Alford plea to 1 count of ag assault and 1 count of conspiring to violate the State's Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act. Judge Paige Reese Whitaker sentenced him to 40 years, with the first 20 to be served concurrently with time he's already serving behind bars, and the second 2 decades to be suspended, court records show. Now, happily angry lawyer Jim had some questions because he couldn't find record of arraignment for Demise McMullen for this indictment. So it just leaves a bigger gap, a bigger mystery question of how did we get here and what are they doing with these people? Like, just sit and wait for trial and take a plea. Andrew Fleischman, great follow on Twitter, recently, just an insane case. Neighboring county, it might have been DeKalb. It wasn't Fulton. Andrew had a client who I think was a paraplegic. He didn't have use of his legs. He's in a wheelchair. And the client was arrested for kicking down someone's door. And so Andrew Fleischman, I think he was losing his mind one day, in a good way. He puts a story over on X, this was 2 months ago. And he tells a story, this is what's going on. I can't believe this district attorney over in this county is still pursuing these charges. And eventually the DA reached out, or ADA reached out, and they dropped the charges against his client. But very good follow. Lots of Georgia stories here from Andrew Fleischman. If you guys remember that case where, on appeal, the case was reversed. It was like a security guard that shot at a woman that was trying to drive away while shooting at people. And he went to the police. He cooperated. He ended up getting convicted. But Adrienne Love said inappropriate things in her opening and closing statements. And that decision, that conviction was reversed, with that being one of the grounds. Andrew Fleischman was the appellate attorney on that case too. So great person to know his name. But he says here, an appellate attorney who has been a vocal critic of Willis and her use of the state's RICO statute said it clearly isn't always the best strategy. He says, these trials are very complicated and they take forever. RICO is a way you salvage a weak case. That's the idea. In the end, it doesn't make your case any stronger. The goal of the YSL trial wasn't to get justice or make the community safer. It was simply to bring a high-profile case, Fleischman said in his opinion. He pointed to all the defendants who received probation in exchange for their pleas, after being denied bond. We give you a plea. And remember, some of these probation recommendations were part of the plea. Not all of them. Like Jeffrey Williams risked it for the biscuit by saying, non-negotiated, Whitaker, I'm putting my future in your hands. But other plea deals, it was negotiated. Just probation. Just probation. Or null pros. So we got some null process for individuals who are already doing very long sentences, possibly to life anyway. So let's see. We have Fleischman also saying there are plenty of people who can be prosecuted with overwhelming evidence. So I don't know why you have to bring these weak cases in these expensive ways, he said. Of the other 4 men initially charged in Thomas's death, 2 were acquitted at trial, and 2 others had their charges dropped late last year. And they're not even qualifying. They're not even adding the detail about the possession. They're just saying, look, these top-level charges, this murder charge against Donovan Thomas, it was a 0. It was a straight-out 0 for the state. McMullen's plea leaves just 1 defendant of the 28 people originally indicted in the case. Christian Eppinger is accused of shooting and critically wounding an Atlanta police officer in February 2022 while he was already on probation. Body cam footage of the officer shooting was played in court last year, though Epinger had already been severed from that case after it was revealed he was having a romantic relationship with a courthouse deputy. So, if you guys missed that story, this was a former deputy in Shakira Ingram's court. They were like sending birthday cards, passing birthday cards to each other, and that was a whole thing. Oh, it's the first line here. He bought her a birthday card. She rubbed his back and said, "Look at me, baby," when she felt he needed comforting. They're writing a romance novel. AJC. AJC. So if we get back over to the Demise story, attorney Siri Shada Jimenez, this is the attorney. If you ever see him giving his insights, go read what he has to say. He has great insights. Did he represent Polo? YSL Polo? I know, like, Chad Diggy will know. Flesh of the Gods will know. I think he may have represented YSL Polo. But Siri Shada Jimenez, more lore, is the guy, the attorney, who he tweeted once that Adrian Love once accused him of spying on her through a printer. Using a printer to spy on Adrian Love. Shout out to Siri Shada Jimenez, who previously represented one of the defendants, called Fulton's sprawling gang prosecution a waste of time and money. They didn't take an honest look at their case. When it comes down to it, it doesn't matter what you allege. It matters what you can prove, Shada Jimenez said. And if you don't have the evidence, it's just a waste of resources. So there we go. Shadi, not Shada, but Shadi Abu Said is ending this with a mic drop quote from Shada Jimenez. If you don't have the evidence, it's just a waste of resources. And that sentiment doesn't stop applying when we're outside of the YSL trial, right? That continues on when we're thinking about things like, oh, maybe a Karen Reed retrial is a waste of money. Maybe buying a Lexus to paint and do testing with, kind of a waste of some money if we're only going to test it by putting paint on our arm and not actually driving the speed that the equipment says the car may have been going. It's not really even a comparable test. But we're just going to buy a Lexus. We're going to buy a Lexus. Seems like a waste of money. Oh yeah, Tat Cloud. Yeah, so Tat Clouds might know too. But Tat Cloud says, Flesh of the Gods, we need Polo in the corner. Polo was the one that would be, like, bobbing his head. I thought he was just listening to music. But I guess he was going through some things where it was actually something out of his control to be bobbing his head. But it really just looked like he was sitting there listening to music for some time until it got really pronounced. But that's YSL Polo, if you remember. Peter Ortiz, feels like so long. Feels like I haven't seen you since your birthday almost a month ago. Hello, boom, boom, boom. Hello, fellow slime and cat. Good to see you, Peter. Yeah, Wheezy says, well, damn, I didn't even know. Salute to kattnotwilliams. Yeah, we just went live because I just saw this final disposition come through. So, guys, we just have one. Do you think that they're going to even offer Christian Eppinger a plea? Maybe they did, and I don't know about it. I haven't heard reporting about it. I mean, it would kind of be like he tried to shoot at a police officer, so it'd be really, really, really bad PR maybe if they tried to offer him a plea deal. But can it get any worse? Can the optics of this case get any worse? Or are we already so far at the bottom that it wouldn't make a significant difference. Like, I don't know. And then they gave him bond a while ago. That was controversial, but he actually got a bond after attempting to shoot. I think they gave him attempted charges for shooting at 2 different officers, but the one actually got shot in the back of the head. So that's obviously, like, you hear the stories, hear that he was, like, in the hospital, maybe saw some of the imagery, saw the body cam video, and then you hear he was granted a bond. They've already kind of burned any good PR they had by granting Christian Eppinger a bond for that, while denying everybody else bond for being too dangerous. Just a lack of logic all around. So, and I don't know, is this like a 9:30 conference? Yeah, this is 9:30, so I don't see a stream for it. I doubt one got kicked up right now. But it looks like we're getting some coverage, maybe. I guess we'll know by the 9th if there's a plea or if jury selection's starting. Candace! Candace says she has the IQ of cold spaghetti. A printer? I mean, it could have been a smart printer, maybe, with some, like, Wi-Fi connections. I don't know. Yeah, Nancy knew one too. I like this. Nancy says they had to get rid of Garlington and Nard to increase their chances of a conviction against Epinger. Because, yeah, if you think about it, having all 3 on trial would pretty much take you through the full scope of events, because you'd have to get through the Donovan Thomas stuff in January of 2015. You'd have to deal with the Shamel drink stuff, which was kind of like, well, when was the Epinger shooting? When was Officer David Rogers? But it's like 3 different events that you'd have to go and establish. Okay, so there's a story for February 9th, 2022 for David Rogers. So, I mean, there you go. And I don't know if they'd really try to bring in some of the more current jail stuff that was going on with Demekian Garlington and possibly Epinger. Maybe they would bring up the courthouse romance. I don't know what they would try to bring in. I don't think Demise McMullen had any, like, new overt acts that they were trying to bring in because he had a jail fight or something like that. But for the other 2, I mean, I can imagine this being... That right there is at least 7 years that they'd be covering. But if they just do Epinger, they really just need to establish he was already on probation. He had this other incident that happened a few months prior. Talk about that. Somehow, if they want to get him on RICO for count 1, I don't know if they would slack off on going after RICO. If you only have one guy sitting there on trial, I think that's a weird optic thing for the jury, right? If it's RICO, where are the other defendants? Why are you only charging this one person? And maybe the jury can put 2 and 2 together and they've heard the coverage and know this case involved 28 people. But as far as talking about the shooting of the officer, the body cam is only Christian Eppinger. It's not like a house gets raided and a group of people are running out of the house and the state's going to say all of them are they're associates of this gang. The optics for Christian Eppinger are pretty much going to look like it's Epinger. And they're just going to say, well, he was in the Cleveland area, so he's an associate because Cleveland. So I do think it's a better strategy, but it's still, I wonder what they're going to do with that RICO. Like, they're going to cling to it probably. But man, they could cut their case down. They could cut this down to like a 1-week trial if they cut that RICO count out for Epinger. Yeah, and no Woody on the stand. There's no need to bring in Kenneth Copeland. So, Nancy New says if they were all 3 going, it'd be like 3 separate trials. So, yeah, Tracy says, as that cop, I'd be pissed. Right, like, I mean, I have my questions because we get testimony from the officer himself who says he, followed standard operating procedures, but then they don't really know what the standard operating procedures are. And I don't really think he identified himself based on what I heard, so that seems to conflict with his memory of his actions getting out of the vehicle and approaching Eppinger to apprehend him. Right, so to me, there's some facts that dispute there, but in any case, whenever, speaking generally, when do you ever hear of somebody shooting at an officer and then that person very quickly gets bond? But then you put that in the context of this being Fulton County, where people are sitting without bond, without indictments, and without a bond hearing. There's a whole bond issue specific to Fulton County. And yet we have this extreme, exceptional example where someone is charged with attempted murder of a police officer. And oops, it was a mistake. We just somehow gave him a bond. How is something like that even just accidental, or like, oh, it slipped under the radar? Just crazy. Good to see you, Miss Toy. Yeah, Flesh of the Gods says yes, it was Polo. We're missing your... The only thing I can offer to put down in the bottom of my screen is... Well, I guess I have the wacky inflatable... I have the Atkins Tube Man guy. But other than that, just have a Viverito. Just have a Viverito. And I have to say, guys, if you want to see another interesting witness in law enforcement on the stand squirming, go check out Kelly Dever or Deaver. She got mad when the attorney pronounced her name wrong. I don't know. Over in the Karen Reed trial. Seems like she had a very specific memory of seeing Buchanan and another officer, I think the supervisor, standing near Karen Reed's vehicle in the Sally Port for a very long period of time. And she relayed that information when being interviewed by the FBI. So she also slipped and told the jury, oh, FBI was looking into us and how this investigation went down. But then she drew it back and acted like it was just bad memory. It was just a slip of her memory. It didn't actually happen. So another funky bunch. And again, it's one of those things, whether you think Karen Reed is guilty or innocent, what kind of integrity is that to have somebody who, she said on the stand, this is the most important part of my job, testifying at trials. This is the most important part of my job. This is the same person that just told us, oh, I can't remember some important detailed thing I relayed to somebody, information I volunteered to somebody. That was a lapse in my memory, can't remember it. But yet this is the most important thing that I do. So, just speaking there of Viverito, yeah, possibly no Viverito. Although, I don't know, because that's Cleveland Avenue, I feel like maybe she's going to come in and be the gang expert there and have that intel that, you know, because remember, part of the Epinger story was they saw him at a nearby, like, corner store, maybe it was a gas station near the entryway to the community, and radioed in like, hey, there's someone that we have to be on the lookout for. But it was said that they knew he was like an associate or an affiliate of different gang members. So it's possible that Viverito could be the witness that the gang expert that they bring in to tell us all about that. And in my opinion, I don't know what other gang experts they have from this like time period starting around in 2021, 2022. But I think the state has the utmost confidence in Viverito. I don't think that they're going to look at Viverito and say, hey, if you know this stuff, cool, but we don't think you're the right fit to go in front of the jury. I think the state loves Viverito to this day. They don't see anything wrong with her approach to her investigations. They don't see anything wrong with the way she fills out affidavits. They don't see anything wrong with the way she doubles or triples down on the stand, even when she's confronted with something that shows she's factually wrong. The state loves her. The state loves her. Oh, and holy moly. Yeah, so Peter Ortiz is boom, boom, stop the circus. Or start selling tickets or something. Get some of that wasted taxpayer money back from these trials. Like, at least do something. But yeah, so it's just down to one. It's down to one. Maybe we'll get an update from the status conference hearing today. If not, jury selection on the 9th. This could be like a 2-week trial at this point, though. And then, holy moly, super generous here, STS. So good to see you. Hope you're doing well. STS will be like, YouTube's not giving me notifications. I'm so glad you made it. This was not pre-planned. We just went live because we saw the final disposition for Demise McMullen's plea come live. Thank you for stopping in, and super thank you for dropping 10 gifted memberships, you guys. I see lots of love in the chat. We got the umbrellas because STS is making it rain. Aretha throwing confetti here. Factual lie with the presents. And Tracy with the peace sign. But yeah, this is going to be... I don't know. I am interested in seeing if, the ACLU barred business. They, like a year and a half ago, they put some pressure on Fulton County to speed up their timeline to indictment. So remember, by statute, if somebody in Fulton County is sitting in custody, they've been arrested, but it's been 45 days and there's still no indictment. They haven't been formally charged. DA has not issued charges. A note is supposed to be sent to the court to say, look, we have this person that we arrested, they're in custody, we still don't have an indictment ready, and a bond hearing is supposed to be set. Well, there's all of these different instances where that's not happening. The ACLU went and filed a bunch of FOIA requests, public information requests. I think it's called something specific in Fulton County. Hey, can we get some of those records of the notes that you sent to the court to notify the court, as you're supposed to do within that 45-day window? If you hit that 45th day, can we get some of those records for these individuals who've been sitting here? Hundreds have been sitting here for 90 days or more with no bond hearing or indictment. Some 18 months. Some people, I think there was someone that was 437 days. And Glanville was hearing that case. And Glanville's like, we're going to have to start doing Saturday courts to catch up the calendar, you guys. I'm willing to work with you if you just let me know. Never did weekend courts. And then the response they got to these public records requests was, we do not have the responsive documents. Well, that's kind of proof in the pudding that you're not sending these notes. If you don't have the responsive documents and you're required to be sending these documents, you're either not keeping records like you should, and I don't think that can be an excuse because the court should have a record of it, or you're not doing the thing you're supposed to do. So this whole drawn out, everything taking so much time, it's not just this RICO case. It's not just because there were 28 people. It's not just because, Fani Willis had her sights set on a high profile case and then it got the best of, she didn't know what to do and she just let it keep going. I mean, maybe that's part of it. But this happens to individuals that are facing, in some cases, nonviolent offenses. First-time offenders, nonviolent offenses, even though we're supposed to have this deferment program that's supposed to keep the crowds out of Fulton County jails. Can't even get them a bond hearing within 45 days. So I would love to see, I think it's around this September-ish time of year, August and September, we start to see some annual reports with information on stuff like this. I would just love to see if there's been a change from 2024, 2025's numbers versus 2022. Have things improved? Because we had all these YSL, the 75% of crimes are being committed by these gangs. Have things really changed? Have we reduced the crowding problem? I don't know. It's just a lot, you guys. It's just a lot. Can they get the watch back? Can they get that watch back? Nobody knows where the watch is. Viverito knows everything except where that watch is. That's the only thing she does not know in this world. Yes. So, factual lie. Yes. Didn't Viverito, I think that's the OMF trial, or the hearing. It's like the pretrial hearings. Didn't Viverito lie on the stand in another trial about not knowing what went on in the YSL trial? Yep, she tried to say, I didn't really know. I came in the middle of that. Are you an expert or not on this hybrid gang beef? Because if you claim to be an expert on a gang's beef with an op, you must necessarily also be an expert in the ops. And she didn't want to concede to that on the stand at this pretrial hearing for the OMF indictment. Just crazy. Yeah, Abby Lynn says Dever was definitely worse on the stand than Viverito. I didn't think that could happen. And she was just stubborn. She's material for the defense because she at some point had said, I saw these two guys, and the defense is thinking, Karen Reed's taillight wasn't broken in the manner that it was displayed to the jury at this point in time, where the prosecution's saying this extreme, extensive damage to this taillight happened on the night of January 29th when Karen Reed backed her vehicle into John O'Keefe and struck him with a car. And then a week later, and then over the course of several days with several different individuals, we end up finding like 44 different taillight pieces that nobody found that night. And Kelly Deaver's like, no, it was just a memory lapse. I don't know what I was talking about. It's not a big deal that I volunteered. Hey, two people were standing for a very long time near that car in the Sally Port. Just insignificant. And Mr. Big Play Bray, nope, there is Christian Eppinger. So I think if you're referring to the screen where we have Christian Eppinger currently pulled up, he's the last remaining defendant. So if there's no plea for him or other resolution, jury trial selection starts on the 9th. So STS says speculation, Viverito is wearing the watch except in court. She's just spending her days like, just me and my watch. Just look how beautiful it is. I can picture it. People are like that about material things. And that's not just your run-of-the-mill material thing. I mean, that's big money. That is big money. Just a mess. Yeah, Nancy knew, yep. She told the feds that story before anyone from the defense spoke to her. Right, it's like you volunteer something. What would Kenneth Copeland say? You sprinkle a little truth. That seems like the truth, because why else would you say that? Why would you even think of that? If you were so far removed from the case, why would you even think anything of officers being in a Sally Port? But something was significant enough to you. Just crazy. So there we go, you guys. That is our YSL 2 update. Gosh, can you imagine if, okay, so say this goes to trial. I think it will. I think it'll just be the state versus Epinger. I mean, just think of how different that room's gonna look. You're not gonna have a million defendants and a million attorneys, and there might be less people at the state's table. Like, I don't think that they'll need, like, the 2 tables of ADAs. Could just be Abate and Hilton duking it out. So we'll get to see more of Adam Abate. Just say yes and you can go home. That's his new middle name. Abby Lynn, miss you, Kat. Miss you guys too. It's nice to see you guys over in, watching other trials when I get to hang out in the chat. I think I said this to go over to Taylor Umbridge, who it does look like she's going to talk about the Karen Reed trial. It's in her title. But she's also going over, is it Sade Robinson or Sadie Robinson? I've only read that about that case with words on paper. I haven't heard her name pronounced out loud. But the murder of Sade Robinson, she's covering that case, which started, I think, yesterday or maybe Friday. Or day 7. It's been going on like a week. But I haven't really seen people covering that case live, and Taylor Umbridge, love her. She's covering that as well. So I have this set to redirect over there if you guys are looking for a trial to watch. That just seems like a really, really sad case. Young girl murdered. So if you're not into that, make sure you switch your screen, switch over to something else, or say hey to Taylor before you hop out of there. With that being said, I'll probably see you guys chat side and maybe on the 9th if we get some updates on this trial. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for hanging out. Big thank you here for the 20 gifted memberships supporting the channel here, STS. And thanks for being able to make it to the live. And yeah, Tracy Talks says, I miss our daily YSL lives. Don't tempt me with a YSL trial rewatch. Get me to commit to like, what, 200 days? Don't tempt me. Don't tempt me. With what we know now, watching from the beginning, it would just be a hot mess. Twice the dumpster fire. TMC Perch with the huh face. Good to see you. Let's wrap this up, you guys. See you in the YouTube streets somewhere. Bye, everybody. Oh, you want the song? Okay, Shannon. Oh, wait, I have a clip. We'll end with a clip and then the song.
Your point is pointless.
Shout out to Antonio Sledge.
A as in Alicia, and B, Your Honor, as in Barry. C as in Colette.
G as in Goldfetter. K as in Kittens. M as in Magic. P as in Perfect. C as in Colette. U as in Unbelievable. V as in Victory. W as in Wonderful.
O for addiction. S for sustain. P for buffering. E for peptopane. S for slime, my friend, and you as in what you mean. I as in I don't recall. M as in may I sleep. All the ABCs of steel makes me feel so real. Yeah, they keep on spinning round, never gonna let me down. G for gavel slams down key, T for telling me anything, R for rights we stand, I for infinity. Life's a courtroom dance. Keep your stances strong with ABCs of steel. You can never go wrong. Oh, the ABCs of steel makes me feel so real. Yeah, they keep on spinning round, never gonna let me down. Steel makes me feel so real. Yeah, they keep on spinning round, never gonna let me down. Oh, the ABCs of steel